What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. In today's video, we're going to be going over on how to get the all-new exotic pulse rifle inside of Destiny 2, the Revision 0. Now, this is in our kinetic slot, and it has a nice new exotic mission / quest tied to this. So to get started, you have to go through your normal quest that we have, more than a weapon. It starts on quest 23. So once you get up to step 23 of more than a weapon, it'll have you do Operation Seraph's Shield. Now, you also get an exotic mission from the Exo Stranger at the helm on that hologram projector called the Hidden Shape, which is also complete that Operation Seraph's Shield to complete and get your new exotic pulse rifle. Now, the interesting thing about this pulse rifle is we are able to craft it with different rolls on its barrel, stock, everything like that, minus its intrinsic perk. And then we're also able in future weeks to get 4 different types of catalyst on this weapon, which allows us to have basically additional perks, outlaw, stuff like that as those catalysts. So those will come in the weeks to come once we progress that normal quest seasonal that we always have, this one more than a weapon. So to get right into it, once we unlock the Operation Seraph mission, we head on in, and it is a little challenging, especially if you're doing the legendary. So going in with a 3-stack is definitely makes it more efficient, but you can do this by yourself. So starting off in the mission, just like our other operations that we have, we start out in the overworld, working our way into the bunker, avoiding the towers as that timer counts down from 15 while defeating ads, and then, like I said, we enter the bunker and actually start up the mission. Now, this mission includes a little bit that we used back in the Deepstone Crypt with a couple different buffs in a scanner buff, an operator buff, and then a suppressor buff. So we will get into that as we go, but know that there are 3 different things that we do within this mission to unlock doors, etc. See what we have to hack. So starting off, when we go into the bunker, we're introduced to the scanner mod. We work our way into this room, have to defeat a bunch of fallen in this area, and one of them will have that little yellow symbol above its head, kind of looks like a yellow oval. Once you defeat that vandal, it'll drop the scanner buff, so you can pick that bad boy up, as well as defeating that captain in there, because the captains do usually drop some type of key that also lets you unlock a certain door. But once you grab that scanner, you're able to see a certain data pad that needs to be hacked, and there will be a certain order that you have to do this. Those pads will be glowing yellow. You walk up to that pad, interact with it in a certain order. Like I said, there is 3 of them per door that we have to unlock when we use the scanner. So this first one, once we hit all 3 of them in this room, those pods come down that we have to take up and continue our journey through this station here. The use of this scanner mod continues for a while here. Just make sure you're going in and depositing it in those certain terminals where it allows you to, because once you deposit it, that allows you to walk through some doors, because when you have that buff on, it doesn't allow you to pass through certain areas. So you do have to deposit it when it tells you to open up the next area, and it's just a rinse and repeat for a couple different rooms by defeating enemies within that room, getting the scanner buff, hacking those certain 3 panels in a certain order. There will be some tricky ones where you hack outside first, then you got to do these little tunnel ways and special little areas to get to where you have to go to scan, but it's really not that bad if you're just looking around the room where you're going to. There will be a door you can't get through until you scan those 3, so once you find that order, very easy to get through all of these rooms. And once we get get to an open area where we got to climb this little pillar. There's going to be turrets in our way where we got to take those out. Nothing too crazy about that. And we enter a room where we're going to use the scanner in a few different ways after we take out all of these fallen. Bunch of arc shields and captains in here, so take your time. Now, once you reach this room it has two different floors. A bottom floor where there's a bunch of squares on the floor, and when you have the scanner buff, you can see certain squares light up yellow. Those are the path that you have to take, because if you step off of those yellow squares, the floor becomes lava and you will get defeated by that architects. Now, there is 3 panels on the left wall, back wall, and on the right wall. The second floor of this room shows you which panels are lit up for those 3 different areas, again using the scanner. So you have 1 2 3, 1 2 3, or you could go left right middle for the center and the left and right walls, so you can see which 3 of those panels to light up and scan when you're going through that maze in the bottom floor with those squares. Now, once you hit that third and final hack of the panel, those green pads will go away and the lasers, so you don't have to worry about walking in a certain pattern, and you can go into our next room where we're introduced to our next buff, which is called the Operator. Now, this buff is red and allows us to shoot data pads on walls to open up doors in certain areas. So once you defeat the Fallen and Hive around into these rooms, make sure that you are shooting the data pads on the walls with that Operator buff. You can see it turns red on the walls when you're shooting them, and in that certain order, it'll just open up different areas for you to travel to. So the first one that we get to, there are 3 data pads that open up different areas for us, and then we can continue to move on. So like I said before, some of these are a little tricky by having to go into vents and different rooms to get them to activate, but once you have all of the openings activated, you're able to go into the next room and progress further into the dungeon until we get to our first boss after we shoot open our 3 different doors. Now, this first boss right here is definitely decently juicy, and you have to hit him with a lot of damage. Now, it comes in a 2-phase damage phase for this guy. So you start off the encounter by shooting the barrels in the center to blow up, and you'll summon a big old gigantic boss that is Yellow Bar. Now, there's going to be a bunch of ads spawning around the room that you will have to take care of as well, but once you get the boss's health bar down halfway, he will become shielded and call in for reinforcements. These reinforcements are a bunch of Fallen as well as 3 Brigs. You have to defeat all the Brigs and all the Taken inside of this room to unlock the boss's shield to continue your damage and finally defeat that boss. Once you defeat the boss, you are able to progress again through the rooms because they open after you defeat and collect those keys and that sort of thing, and we're moving on to where it says actually get captured. So we get rid of our weapons for a second, let the Fallen capture us so we can go do a nice little fancy spacewalk that is actually part of the Deepstone Crypt. Very easy, and we're using our Operator again. So it's just a nice little jumping puzzle, pretty linear. Just follow the path that it takes you with avoiding the windmills, defeating the Hive on the way until you get to this point right here with the Operator buff. Now again, there's 3 data pads that you have to shoot so you can jump up higher and progress up to the final platform where we finish off our final boss. Now the 3 data pads are super easy. They are shown right here, easy order. You shoot the one closest to the wall, then you have to come out a little bit on the peninsula and it's at the very tip of it. And finally, where we're jumping to, the third and final one, is on that wall. Now once we shoot all of those data pads, we can work our way up through the rest of this jumping puzzle, and when we get up to this big old hangar that the ships land in and bay, there's going to be a couple ogres servitors and some fallen that we have to take care of. So just make sure you wipe out all of those enemies, turn in your operator buff at that little council, and we actually move on to our final boss room where we start using the Suppressor. So the idea is given to us on our way to the boss room. There is going to be some servitors that we deal with that are shielded. Now our third and final buff comes into play, like I said, with Suppressor. It is a blue sphere. Now when you defeat the Taken or Fallen that has that blue buff on top of it, you collect it and you will see these green balloons that are around the area. There will be 3 of them. With that Suppressor buff, you go inside of that balloon area and shoot the boss in that room or the enemy. To actually suppress it, you have to do it at each one of those 3 spots. Once that happens, the boss becomes suppressed and a door will open where there's a mine that we have to actually destroy as well, so we can finally do damage on the enemy, in this case the servitors, until we get to the final boss, just kind of giving you the basic mechanics that it's teaching us through this encounter right here. Now, once we work our way through a couple rooms with shooting those servitors and doing the suppression, we reach our final boss, which is a combination of what we've just been doing with those suppressors. So this is a big old boss that we're going to have to 3-phase, because after you do a certain amount of damage, it will become immune, and we have to go through that process of getting the suppressor buff from one of the Taken, one of the Fallen around the area. And then once we have that suppressor buff, make sure you go into your 3 different balloon areas, shoot the boss to have him become stunned basically in a certain area. Once you shoot him once at each of those balloons, there will be 3 doors that open, one on the left hand side of the room, one on the right hand side of the room, and one right in the middle. Those mines are there for you to destroy. Make sure you destroy each one of those, and after you destroy all 3 of those mines, the boss will become unimmune again, and you can start doing your damage for that second and third phase. You just rinse and repeat. Once he becomes immune, get the suppressor buff, go to each of those balloons, shoot him once at each of those balloons, destroy the mines, and then continue your DPS until you defeat the final boss. Bada boom, go to the left hand side of the room and you are able to put that virus into the scape and destroy what we are doing with these fallen enemies. You get your final chest, complete the Operation Seraph Shield's mission, and you will actually be able to obtain your pulse rifle right from here after you complete your quest. Now, once you complete this mission here, you head back to the helm where you are able to get the red border weapon from Clovis Bray at the helm here. This is our deep resonance because we're going to be able to craft this with different types of catalysts on it, as well as different barrels, magazines, stocks, stuff like that. So once you get that deep resonant from Clovis, make sure you just go into a lost sector, something like that. About 30 to 40 kills with the weapon and you have its deep resonant complete. So you can collect that and you actually unlock the pattern to craft the weapon, like I said, with those different perks on it. Now, the little caveat, like I said before, we're not going to get those extra catalysts until later weeks. We're going to have to progress our main quest, that more than a weapon, to farther levels to unlock those catalysts. But once we level up our weapon, we are going to be able to change its barrels, stocks, magazines, stuff like that. So this is a very interesting weapon. I think it slaps very, very hard with its perks that it has on, especially having 2 different fire rate options, as a 4 burst that hits a little bit softer, and then a 2 round burst that hits like a truck in both PvE, PvP. And then you can also charge this bad boy up, kind of similar to Symmetry. Once you get it charged up, you put 3 basically sniper rounds in that magazine. Does some very good damage in PvE realm. You can one-shot in the PvP Crucible, So it's a very nice pulse rifle for that aspect. And last but not least, this has intrinsic anti-barrier, so it's going to be nice for taking this into endgame for those PvE activities. So hopefully this helps you guys go through that Operation Seraph. We'll definitely be having more videos on how to get the extra catalysts when they do come out. So I appreciate your guys' support. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.